So for those of you that are waiting patiently, just to give you some background, I'm Jeffrey Dowling. I am the sponsoring editor for Physical Sciences at Bedford Freeman and Worth. I actually met Dr. Stacy when she was working on her first edition of Living by Chemistry. So I actually was a teacher in the classroom and used some of the early materials and then worked on the program to create the first edition, which some of you might be familiar with. And I was lucky enough to be here still to work on our brand new second edition. So I'm out in California right now, as is Dr. Stacy. She's at UC Berkeley. So thank you for joining us, for those of you who are on the East Coast, and for those of you who might be up a little bit later tonight. We really appreciate that. And especially for those of you that are on the East Coast struggling through what I understand is a rather chilly and cold winter. I actually had to close my windows so you won't hear the traffic in San Francisco, but it is rather warm here. So we appreciate all of you who are making it through the winter, who are up late tonight for a WebEx. And Julie, where are you right now?
I'm in Rhode Island.
Okay, so you're feeling that weather. So
yes, I am.
Soon to change. If you saw on the slides, those of you that are logging in, we'll all be in Chicago for the NSTA National Conference. So Dr. Stacy is going to be presenting some workshops for lessons from the curriculum there. And that's probably when I'll have to experience that cold weather. We were there back last year, not at NSCA, but in Chicago as a company when the polar vortex happened. And I can only say that I've never been through colder weather. So I'm excited to go to Chicago. I love it, but I'm a little nervous about the cold. So welcome, everybody, to the Bedford Freeman and Worth You Led It My Life Model Belonging, a webinar. We're here today with Dr. Angy. As I mentioned, I'm Jeffrey Dowling, the sponsoring editor. At the end of the webinar, if you ever have any questions about Living by Chemistry, you are welcome to contact either Julie Conforty, our marketing manager, or me. And Julie can send you a text with that information if you need it. But for now, if you have any questions, send text through to Julie. We want to welcome Dr. Stacy. Thank you, Dr. Stacy, for joining us. We are going to jump right into things because we know that we have limited time. We have an hour, and we are going to cover four big things. We're going to first meet Dr. Stacy, author of Living by Chemistry. Next, we're going to run through some interactive lessons, and during those interactive lessons, we're hoping that you might be able to participate with us by using the chat feature. We want you to imagine what might your students respond to some of the questions that we'll be asking, so that you can get a feel for how this might work. Once we're finished with the lessons, we'll review all of the second edition resources available to you if you were to adopt Living by Chemistry, and we'll end Q&A with Dr. Stacy. So at this point, I think I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Stacy, who will introduce herself and give you a little background why she created Living by Chemistry. Thank you, Dr. Stacy.
Well, welcome to everybody. I hope that maybe sometime in the future I have a chance to meet you face-to-face. I've been teaching for quite a while at the University of California, Berkeley, mostly entry-level chemistry, and I really, really love teaching, and I really care deeply about the success of the students. And over time, especially earlier in my career, I was finding that a lot of the students were not getting as much out of the class as I would like them to get. And that led me to start to think more about teaching and learning. I started to do research in the area of chemistry education, and I found that working at the college level didn't give me the insights that I really wanted. And I turned then to the high school level, where I found great partnerships with high school teachers and with high school students. We got an NSF grant, National Science Foundation grant, to develop this curriculum and tested it in lots of classrooms, got lots of wonderful feedback from teachers and students, and were able to put together this curriculum. In addition, I think it might be useful for you to know that I was part of the NGSS physical science team, and I've also spent quite a number of years helping the College Board with the AP Chemistry redesign. So just to give you a quick snapshot of Living by Chemistry, what we really want to achieve with this curriculum is to shift the pedagogy from one in which the teacher is exclusively standing in front of the students, create many more interesting activities and guided inquiry to engage the students. We want to put an emphasis on conceptual understanding, and we're really hoping that the way that we've put the teacher materials together, that it really supports you as a teacher to have a foundation for what you might do in your classroom, and that allows you to focus more attention not on developing a lesson for tomorrow, but actually taking a lesson and seeing how it works specifically with your students and how to modify that student for the success of your students. So the curriculum, as you see on this slide, is divided up into 6 thematic units. The first 2 units are about matter and structure. The third and fourth are about first physical change and then chemical change, and then we get into energy and finish with a very brief introduction to equilibrium. Notice our nice titles: Alchemy, Smells, Weather, Toxins, Fire, Showtime. We chose those because we wanted to get the students engaged right away. What's a fire? Does everything burn? If you have a penny and you turn it into gold, did you really do that? Are you going to become wealthy all of a sudden because you know some secret? How do you smell things? What's happening in your nose? How does the stuff get into your nose? And so what we're going to do today is take you through a lesson that's towards the end of alchemy, after the students have been introduced to quite a bit about atoms and matter and the structure of atoms. So next slide.
So I'd actually just jumped ahead. Let me introduce. We're going to be doing lesson 25 from Unit 1. It's called You Light Up My Life. And it's a lesson with the learning objectives of having students be able to, by the end of the class, be able to classify substances into categories based on the properties of solubility and conductivity. They'll be able to explain the difference between the terms soluble and insoluble, and they'll begin to describe the atomic makeup of substances on whether or not they're soluble and or conduct electricity. Now, this particular lab is tied really well with the following lesson, so we'll also give you a sneak preview of the following lesson afterwards, which ties together what students discover today in the lab with models of bonding. So at this point, we think that with Living by Chemistry, that one of the best ways to understand how a lesson works is to kind of model what that lesson would be like. So we're going to jump right away into what we call a Chem Catalyst. We're going to be reflecting on these. These are the materials that are going to be used in the lab. All of this information will be shown to you later in your teacher edition. So we're going to be using a conductivity tester, and we're going to be testing different substances. And we start off the lesson. All of that is background, and it's all prepared the day before, and you have all the resources you need to set that up. And when students walk into the classroom, they see the Chem Catalyst question on the board every day, and this question is designed to get the class started. Students learn that there are no wrong answers to the class. It's a chance for you to draw upon students' ideas and to find out what they know as they come in. And so I'm going to turn it over to Angy to kind of teach our virtual lesson, and we encourage you to use the chat feature to share what your students might think to answers to these questions.